Okay, we're back with another breakdown of the Velma series. That's going to premiere on HBO Max next Thursday. Now, here we have screenshot number 1 out of I think 8 that we're going to be looking at today. But before we get into that, I just want to say shout out to Scooby News on Instagram and Velma Brazil on Twitter. They're the people that presented these screenshots to the world, so I kind of just want to shout them out and give them credit. If you want to keep up with anything else that they post, I'll be leaving their information in the description down below. And also, I guess spoiler warning, we don't have any insight to this show. We don't know exactly what's going on. We're just here to speculate and to kind of deep dive into the photos that we have in front of us today. But if you do want to be completely spoiler free from anything, then please do avoid this video, and we'd actually recommend coming back after you've watched the particular episode, this being episode 3, and maybe see what we got right and what we got wrong. But regardless, we're in a auditorium at some point, or we're in a gym in this photo, and you look at the background and it's evident that this is some type of spectator event. Like, people are in this crowd here. It's a packed crowd, and that leads me to think one of two things. One, mandatory school event, so this could be part of an assembly. I'm just going to say this right now. I'm from the UK and from a UK school background, so we never had things like pep rallies. Like, I don't even know what a pep rally is, so maybe from an American perspective, you guys in the comment section that are in America could comment down below, and if you recognise what's going on here, then that would actually be really useful. So I can speculate that it's a sporting game at a school. Now, the signage in the background could give us some hints, like there's some love hearts. There's a D in a love heart, which I think could mean Daphne. If I was a betting man, I'm going to say that this is either cheerleading tryouts or some type of competitive school game. So we have someone's holding up a t-shirt that says BD on it. And at first I was thinking maybe it's a school logo. So maybe Velma goes to a school with the initials BD. But at the same time, we've seen from the Velma Twitter account that they've cited their location as Crystal Cove, and unless they're going to be called anything other than, Crystal Cove High or something like that, I kind of find it a little bit unlikely that that's the case. What's more likely is that's the initials of a person, so maybe they're backing someone to be a cheerleader. And I'm almost thinking, could we see a relative of Velma in this show? So could that stand for Barbara Dinkley, for example? It's possible, time will tell. Again, it could just be that they're the team that Crystal Cove is competing against. That is a complete possibility. But I do want to know what you guys think of in the background. Right now, I am thinking cheerleading tryouts, but my guess is as good as yours with this. I'm not too sure. This is what I'm not looking forward to. It's stuff like this that makes me skeptical for the show. So we've got 3 women standing over Velma, and clearly this is some type of bullying scenario, and you just understand the writing on the wall in terms of this is signalling the storyline a mile away. So Daphne is clearly part of a group that is bullying Velma, and I think the main instigator is the blonde purely because she's the one in the middle, so it almost poises the others like, minions or just accomplices to this bullying format. And you can just see that about halfway through the show, maybe even a bit early on, Daphne is going to have that moment where she turns on the blonde and sides with Velma. Now, if they do it right, it could be okay. But with the Velma show, I kind of just want to see something more interesting, more unique, as opposed to, yes, let's break away from the traditional Scooby format, do something different. What's that different thing we're going to do? The same thing like everyone else in our genre. To me, that's just lazy writing if that is the case. Again, we don't know, but yeah, I think it's kind of cut and dry on what's going to be happening here. This is just more example of the blonde being the ringleader from all of this, because this is a clear face off. It's like a versus type thing. It's Velma versus this person, and I'm pretty sure it is the same blonde. I mean, there's not too many ways to tell apart from the similar hairstyle if you look at the outfit, and that leads me to believe that all the photos we have been analysing so far are in some type of chronological order, because you can imagine Velma getting up from that situation and kind of just getting in the face of this woman. So, yeah, I mean, not much to say about that. It's clear that she's going to be some type of antagonist, but whether that's a serious antagonist, meaning she's one of the culprits, or if it's in the form of, hey, maybe it's just a rival that goes nowhere. Maybe she softens a bit. Maybe she's one of the victims. I don't know. But here's what we have, and I can't really say too much about it. Instantly, when we saw this screenshot, this to me was the most bizarre. Like, I just thought maybe this was a little bit too silly. But thinking about it, I think I've found some way that I can maybe justify it. So we see that Shaggy has a black eye. So he's been in some type of confrontation that we can speculate one way or another. I mean, so far we have just seen Shaggy walking into the room with that kind of unsavory guy. I believe that was episode 2. And I speculated there that maybe he is a delivery person that stumbles across the wrong thing. And maybe this had credence to it. Maybe Shaggy sees something he doesn't, he isn't allowed to see, he shouldn't see. And so he gets a bit roughed up for it. That's a possibility, but that's all we can speculate so far. What I think is going on here is this is one of Shaggy's friends, and as opposed to Shaggy being like a deity type figure or some type of angel, I actually feel like this is just going to be an example of them using the medium of animation to a more bombastic effect than we'd initially expect from the more adult tones that they're clearly going for here. I think this person is posed to be a bit of a shut-in, a recluse that doesn't leave the house, a bit antisocial, and this is just Shaggy coming over saying, hey look, there's a big world out there, let's go and explore it. He opens the curtains, and you can imagine the curtains haven't been opened to let sunlight in for ages, and just the light pouring into the room is going to be the thing that's giving that, that oh effect. That's all I think that this is. It's just Shaggy saying, hey look, leave the house. I don't think that there's anything more to that unless they are getting into genuine paranormal stuff, but then I don't know why Shaggy's at the centre of that. Another thing I did think of, which is a bit sad to say, because again, I don't want this to be the case for Shaggy, but it could be that they've both taken something that's affecting their judgment a bit, and maybe they're hallucinating. And I'm not totally against that in adult animation, but I just feel like for Shaggy, or for Norval I guess, it's the laziest possible route. Like, yeah, people may think that Shaggy's a stoner. Oh, aren't we so funny by referencing it? Like, not really. If you're going to make it a serious part of the character, like, fine, but then don't just do it for some type of ridiculous reference. But no, I don't think that that's what's going on here. I just think Shaggy's trying to bring his friend back into the world. This is a really funny image here. I don't know what to think about it, although we can note this is the same room that pep rally, cheerleading tryout, whatever that scene was in the first photo we looked at. This is definitely the same room, but I think it's fair to say that this is a different day. I don't think that this is linked to that scene as such beyond being in the same location. I think if it is cheerleading tryouts, clearly here maybe they've just announced who's who, and clearly Daphne hasn't been chosen, so she's kind of getting up and getting angry about that. That's really the only thing that I can think of. I mean, I don't know why she's in the middle of a circle and everyone just seems kind of dumbfounded, unless they're doing some type of, I guess, amateur wrestling style stuff. Like, I don't know why she'd be there, why people are in the circle. All I can imagine is that the teacher is maybe listing off who got assigned what role, and Daphne isn't happy about it. Not really much else that I can speculate on at this point, but I do like this visually. It does look like it's going to get a bit like generic. Like, they've made Daphne look more interesting, but primarily by making the background characters just look a bit dull. Like, they've all got the exact same facial expression on, and I don't know, I'm not a big fan of how the background characters are looking. But in terms of Mystery Inc. themselves, I think they've taken it in a bit of a different and interesting direction. Not saying I'm crazy about all of them, but definitely they're not generic like the background characters are, which is a shame because it just makes the world seem a little bit falser. And yeah, I don't know if that's going to affect immersion when you actually see the episodes, but definitely it's kind of taking me out of it just looking at the screenshots. So we're gonna deep this. We're gonna try and see what is written on the whiteboard. Now we see that it seems to be a step-by-step process for something. So step 1 on the whiteboard is yell, and then it's going to an image of someone stood over what appears to be someone lying on the floor. So clearly they've thrown them down. Now we don't know what the writing says beyond the word down because we can clearly see the D, the O, and the W, but we can't really make out the image on the top. But I'm guessing it's yell, push down, or throw down. It could either be a T or a P. It's either push or throw down. And then it's something that we can't really make out. But the point is, I do think this adds some credence to it being some type of a wrestling maneuver that Daphne was doing. So we saw her doing the yell part, and now because they don't look happy with each other, I'm guessing it's Velma that she pushed down. I just don't know why the school would be encouraging that level of violence. I mean, it doesn't even seem like they are because the teacher clearly doesn't look happy with them. The other coach towards the back doesn't look happy. And clearly Daphne and Velma don't look happy here either. So why it's written on the whiteboard, why they seem to be getting in trouble, I don't know. But what's clear is that this is definitely on the same day as the previous screenshot, with the same students being there in the background and the audience not being present. So we get a better look at the gymnasium, a better look of, the auditorium, whatever it is. So that's kind of what we're going for here. It's a bit of confusion, but I think at least we know what's written on the whiteboard. It's clearly a step-by-step for some type of combat maneuver, although it's unclear if this is part of the curriculum or if maybe Daphne just wrote it. Maybe there was like some snarky scene where she just illustrated what happened. I don't know. We'll find out. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. But yeah, now we're going to move on to the next screenshot. Again, with this episode, there is another screenshot that I just don't know what to make of. The first thing I'm thinking of is this is perhaps an allegory for how chaotic Velma's life is. So we've seen that her dad is either 1, maybe struggling with drinking, or 2, just extremely overworking himself. He's maybe prioritizing business and work over the family unit, maybe. And we don't really know about the mum yet, so maybe we're to assume that Velma is quite self-sufficient, she has to do a lot by herself, but maybe in this instance it doesn't always go well. What is certain though is we are in for a bit more of a cartoony vibe than I think some people were expecting, in that maybe something like an electric shock that would actually show, sparks like this around a person would be more fatal than it is here. And I do think that's a good way to go, because if there's one thing that I've said about this, is I don't want the format of animation to be wasted. If they're going to do a dark, gritty, maybe even depressing adult show for Velma, that's fine. But if they're just going to make it animation for the sake of it, then I'd almost rather see a live action take on that. But the fact that we're getting a bit more of this, I want to say they're not isolated incidents, it does make it seem like it was, formatted to be in animation, which I'm more of a fan of than the medium being inconsequential. This is a very easy screenshot to understand. Daphne and Velma just aren't happy with each other. Now, here's something that we can speculate on. Let's assume that this is the end of the episode. It could be that the blonde has fallen victim to the main villain, which is what I kind of speculated on. Maybe they're upset about that. I don't think so, though. I think there's something more going on here. Now, if it was straight after the other scene, I would almost speculate that it's a bit like Amy Lou Wood's character and Maeve from Sex Education on Netflix, where maybe they are best friends behind the scenes, but in order to maintain popularity, Daphne is still bullying Velma. She's pretending to be in with that kind of the in clique. And so maybe there's a bit of guilt on the part of Daphne when it comes to seeing, the blonde woman pushing Velma over and antagonizing her. And there is some credence to that. Like, if they are confrontational people, if Daphne is a bully and Velma's the victim, then I don't understand what this is. I think it would be anger more than anything, but if you look at both their facial expressions, they are very sad. So I'm guessing that this is either one, from what I said, maybe they are secretly friends and this is guilt, or two, something has happened to the blonde. If it's the very end of the episode, I can't really speculate on it apart from the fact that maybe that reveal just happened like later on, or maybe there was some type of triggering event that came across from all the situations there with the bullying. I don't know. It is definitely interesting, and it gives me a bit of hope in that it's not just going to be Daphne has a last minute change. It does seem like stuff is already in motion, and there's going to be a bit more nuance to the relationship of Daphne and Velma, which I think is a good way to go. It's like when Velma was first announced, we were like, oh my god, like, is the rest of Mystery Inc. gonna be in there? And yeah, it does seem like they're gonna be crazy integral to this story. I'd almost argue that because of how integral they seem, then just make a Mystery Inc. adult show. Why does it have to focus on Velma? But as we've seen recently with the Wednesday series, that was very much her show. It didn't matter that we had Pugsley, Thing, Fester. You know what I mean? Like, we had those characters, yes, but it was still Wednesday's story. And with this, yeah, we've got Daphne, we've got Fred, we've got Norville, but it's still going to be Velma's story. I do like how they're not excluding the whole of Mystery Inc., although the lack of Scooby is still, we can talk, that's a whole nother video entirely. But yeah, what do you guys think about these screenshots? This has been the most difficult batch to break down, so I apologise if this has kind of fallen short a bit, but I do want to hear everyone's theories in the description down below. And if you do want to see more analysis, I believe we've got maybe 2 or 3 more episodes left, then please like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee and Milly.